All right, glad you guys have joined us as we continue our Faith at Work series and talking to different folks. And I hope you've enjoyed the series so far, as we had a few of them, and adding on each Wednesday night as we go forward and follow a similar format today, but had a little bit of technical challenges. The internet, I always say technology is always good until it doesn't work like it's supposed to. And kind of ran into that wall a little bit, even though we've got things limping along a little bit. I have a guest today from way up north, from the state of Iowa, talking to Noah Riggs. So we were able to connect with audio, but we have not been able to connect with video, unfortunately. So you'll just get to see my pretty face, and you'll get to see a blue box, I think, for Noah. However, you will hear his voice. And so Noah, of course, as most of you know, is still going through school, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about that as things unfold. But last summer, he did begin working in the industry, banking industry. That's where he plans on moving towards as he finishes up schooling, and so he did get some experience last summer in the banking industry, and perhaps he'll be working in that industry in the future. So thought it'd be good to interview a younger person a bit. I know some of the ones that we've interviewed so far have been a bit older and set in their track of work a bit, but Noah just getting started in finishing his education. So anyway, welcome, Noah.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Good, and of course also freshly off of his marriage, so the honeymoon is still going on, I guess, there in Iowa, and things going well with you guys.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks strong. Abby's actually at work right now, and I'll be starting tomorrow, bright and early, 6 a.m.
Oh wow, that is bright and early.
But I get up at 2, so there's a silver lining after all.
So what are you doing this summer? I mentioned last summer you had worked at the bank. What's going on this summer, and how did you get kind of to this position?
So my original plan since the end of school, and then hopefully, I guess all through that coronavirus thing, I had an interview with the bank during our spring break, and everything was going well. They said that they would get back to me next week because I had it on a Tuesday as the interview, I believe. And then all of the stuff with coronavirus just kind of exploded. So banks ended up closing down to drive-throughs only, and what I wanted to do was really not with any customer activity. It was more credit analyst position is the thing I was going for. But with the closing of the banks, they haven't had the need for that, and so I was kind of just finishing up school, finishing up online classes, because that's what we were reduced to. And then I thought for the longest time that online classes that I was going to take this summer, that's all I was going to do. But through family connections, I was able to get a position at a country club where Abby's mom and her brother currently work, and I'll be working as part of the grounds crew, helping the golf course to stay nice and
well manicured.
Yeah.
So you'll be the guy driving around on the mowers that everyone's aiming
I believe so.
Aiming at with their golf ball.
I don't know if I'll be doing that, but if I do, that'll be pretty fun. So.
And I think they put a little cage around you if you have to do that.
That should be good.
Well, I know you began as a math education major, I think it was, and
correct.
So now I think you're a finance major. How did you kind of get towards moving that train down that track?
So whenever I started my sophomore year at Harding, I was in a Calculus 2 class, and I decided that it was not for me. The guy who's teaching it, brilliant, but he's not the best teacher. But even with that, I don't think I could have understood much of what he was talking about, because I barely squeaked through Cal 1. So I decided to kind of reevaluate where I was going, and I went to the career services place that they have at Harding, and finance and accounting was spit out to me, and I was like, I'm dating Abby, and her mom's a accounting major and CFO now, and so I'll talk to her and just kind of get a grasp of what that entitles, and decided to go into it, and it's been a blast so far. So
Oh, okay. So it's somewhat similar as you got numbers going on in math education. You got numbers going on in finance. So some similarities there, even
Yeah.
though the audience is a bit different, I guess, in some respects. So even though last summer you did work at a bank, didn't you?
Yes.
So you begin that environment. So you got a little bit of exposure. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about what you did last summer, and as you move towards perhaps banking or the business industry in some way of finance, we'll think in terms of those kind of discussing this faith at work topic with that experience you had last summer and moving towards what that may look like moving forward. What did you do last summer at your job?
So last summer, yeah. So last summer I was a teller. So I just
Okay.
handled day-to-day transactions for customers that came in and all sorts of fun stuff.
Okay. How many people did you work with in your work environment? What did that kind of look like?
So a typical day was, let's see, there was like 4 tellers, including me, behind the line. And then, so working with them, they had their own window. I had my window that I'd work at. Different customers would come throughout the day. And then also personal bankers would come up if they had a client in their office. The personal banker would come up and do a transaction on their behalf. Just stuff like that.
So did you count a lot of money at the end of the day? And I know I see people at the window there counting up and making sure everything balances. Did you
Yeah.
handle
So in the technological days that we have right now, I was, let's see, probably the most money that I had in a drawer at a time was maybe $100 because
Oh, really?
yeah, because all we had just like electronic. I don't know. Everything was computer based, so we had
Oh, okay.
all our withdrawals, deposits, stuff like that was calculated on the computer, and we had a machine in between 2 tellers where you would input the money into, and then you would also withdraw from there if you needed to for a customer. So pretty much all of that was computer based, and
Automated.
yeah, and then the only coin that you had in your drawer was coin, like nickels, dimes, pennies, stuff like that. You also had rolled coin if people wanted that, and then you also had like a little stash of mutilated money, or in case it was like too ripped to go through the machine or something like that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if too. I've heard that people that handle money a lot, which it didn't sound like you handle a whole lot of money, that you can tell a counterfeit bill very easily just due to the feel of the money. I don't know if
Yeah, you get used to seeing. Yeah, you get used to seeing some pretty crazy stuff. I was lucky to never have gotten any of that, but I did have a lady come up one day and with the deposit for, I think it was a church, and the top bill, she was like, "And this bill is ripped in half. I wonder if you can take it." And I looked at it and I looked at both serial numbers and they matched. So I was like, "Yeah, I can take this," and just taped it back together and we were good to go.
Huh. Recently, I did actually accidentally tear a bill in half, and I looked online, and it said that at most banks they should be willing to trade the bill out for you. Because I didn't know what to do either. I just Googled it, and and they were like, yeah, or Google said that you can bring it to a bank, and most of them should be willing, as long as the serial numbers match up on each side, and
Yeah.
that they should be willing to change it out for you. Yeah, that was kind of interesting. So, what's the oddest thing that you've seen besides? You seen any counterfeit bills or anything, or
I
do they come up?
saw a counterfeit bill, not by someone bringing it to my window, but
Mm,
the counterfeit fraud specialist that we had working at the bank, because I worked at the main branch. She brought up I think what she described it as, it was like money that the Chinese government uses to train Chinese people who will be working in America. So I
wow.
think they have like some way, because maybe their money is slightly different in the way it's used than our money. But she brought it because it was like looked like a perfectly good dollar bill or whatever, but then it had like Chinese markings on it, so you can definitely tell that it was not legal tender. And so she brought it up to our machine to see if it would go through, and it rejected it. So like it was supposed to. So
So it looked like a dollar bill, but it just had the Chinese, some Chinese writing on it and stuff.
yeah,
Huh. That's interesting. What did, as far as working there in that environment, and of course, maybe you're not going to be a teller the rest of your life, but what did you enjoy most and what did you enjoy least about the job working in the bank there?
I actually really enjoyed the people that I worked with. They were really nice people, and then just kind of the weird conversations and like the funny like just inside jokes that we would have. Like we would see a customer come in, and then like me only being there for a month or so, I wouldn't know anything about them. But then the other people would be like, "Oh no,
No,
there's that
I know
person." And
everything.
I'd be like, "Yeah." So we had a few. It was good times just to kind of share with them. And then I guess segueing into that, the worst part were those customers. If you got them to your window, they would like mess with you, or they would have some confusing transaction to do, and you're just like, okay, I got to keep everything straight here.
Everyone else knows the weird things they bring transactions potentially, and so they send them to your window.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm sure it could get a little challenging to unravel some of the circumstances and situations that may come. I know you just worked for a summer, but and especially with you as a young person, I always try to in these interviews and discussions kind of talk to young people, especially about learning lessons about working with others, and particularly what kind in connection with your boss. What kind of relationship did you have with your boss, and how did that help things or harm things, or was it encouragement, kind of positive relationship, negative? What was that like?
I do have to say that it was very positive, and I feel like um, that has to be with like even though I was like way younger than most of the people working there, the responsibility that they still put on my shoulders, and I was able to accomplish everything that they had me do. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, this kid can do what we tell him, and he's efficient at it. So that just made the whole relationship just work easier.
And were you going to go back to the same bank this summer that you're going to go back to?
No, it was going to be a different bank
Oh,
with that I had another connection to, and then that didn't work because of Corona. So I called up the bank that I did work at, and they were like, "Yes, our drive-throughs are shut down." And I understood why they didn't, but I heard from an inside source that they were happy that I called.
okay.
So
So if they would have been back up to workload, you could have potentially
yeah,
went there.
still
Okay.
trying to keep still trying to keep relationships fresh and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at too. I didn't know if it was the same bank, but whenever you do good work and especially from one summer to the next, I know it's not quite the same thing, but I worked 2 summers at Walmart going through college, and the second summer I got on very easily because the first summer I had a good record and good work ethic and things like that, kind of like you're saying, and that really helps in the short run and in the long run as you like I said, as you need another summer job potentially, and they say, we would hire you back, but everything crazy right now. So, but yeah, definitely is helpful to have good relationships with your boss, and being a good standing and good name helps in the short run and in the long run as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like I said, as they kind of challenge you to take on new things, you're able to do those things, and they begin to see that. What kind of flipping over, that kind of talks about what you did a little bit, even though I think most people know what a teller is, even though maybe not the day-to-day working, so you get a little more insight there. But let's look at kind of your faith and how your faith affects your work and how your work affects your faith. Kind of shift gears a little bit. And your workplace there last summer, was there other Christians in the workplace that you had?
One of the people that I worked with, her name was Emily, and she was actually Abby's best friend from high school. So it was nice to have someone there already that was there that I knew and could talk to. And I know that she and Abby attended a private Christian high school for a bit. So I knew that she had the faith in that. But other than that, nothing was disclosed to me privately or anything like that. Besides, I mean, just people's attitude. Like they had a good attitude. They loved what they were doing, and they didn't show any negative harm towards anybody. So so only that one person besides me that I knew for a fact, but but based on other people's attitudes and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if there are more.
Okay. Yeah. Then we talk about kind of the fruit of the spirit and recognizing a tree by its fruit. And I think that's definitely true. As sometimes as we find out more about people, we're not as surprised that they're Christians, based on their way they treat us and their language and different things like that. And how is that helpful to have someone there, another Christian at least, and maybe more? But how did that help the work environment as you were in a new place? And I guess that was the first time you had been in Iowa pretty well, and say last summer.
That was the first summer that I was there full time, and it was first extended time that I was up there. So basically a new place and a really high up job. I was really blessed to be able to have the opportunity to work there, but it was very, very different from just stuff that I'd done before, like summer tutoring. I did that for a summer, but this was a regular 9-to-5 job where I was expected to be somewhere and expected to do my job, and then expected to leave at the right time. So I guess just everyone being so nice to me, and being able to answer my questions, because I did have a lot of questions starting out. Everyone's good attitude. I was never nervous to go and ask someone, because they were really understanding, and they're like, yeah, you're new to this. I was in your shoes at one point as well. She was able to help me with all that stuff. It was great.
Yeah, definitely a lot of challenges. A new place, a new work environment. So that's good, and that's very helpful to have other people that are understanding, and as you said, your boss understanding, and to do your best and to learn and pick those things up, which I'm sure they saw you do as time went on. What are some temptations that you saw in your work environment?
So one for me personally was every night we had to close our drawer, and stuff happens. Sometimes you're off $1 or $2 or something like that. And there's always that, like, I was never off a lot. I want to clarify that right now. But there was always that.
I was going to ask if there was ever a time I was like, $1,000, and you're like, wait, I didn't do anything wrong.
I did have something where it was like $2,000, but we were able to go through with another person that was there, that's been there a lot longer than me. We were able to find it and get it taken care of. But there's always that.
So that like an entry error or something, or?
Yeah, just sometimes the ways that you input it can be read the wrong way. So sometimes you have to be careful with the way you put it in and stuff. So that time we got it taken care of. But there's always some times where you have like maybe the most is like $1 off. So you're like, man, if I could just like take this and then put in the amount and be like, we'll be fine. But you gotta make sure that you keep your head on straight, and that you, like, even if it is 50 cents or something, you gotta record it, because that's going to come back on the bank and not you, and you need to make sure that you record everything correctly.
So do you have to track down and find exactly where the 50 cents is missing, or do they just put just at the end of the day say there was a 50-cent error, 50 cents short, or 50 cents too much? Or
yeah, so most of the time you can get it figured out with just a little bit of going through your transactions and stuff. That we try and balance maybe like 4 times a day. I try and do it if I have a break in the day. Just then I can go through, count the money that I do have, and make sure everything matches. So if you do that consistently, you can have a shorter period of where you went off somewhere.
So if you're good at 2 o'clock and then you're off at 5 o'clock, that it was between 2 and 5
something in that 3-hour window.
I got you.
Yeah, but so just at the end of the day, you just got to go through and be like, I know this, but sometimes you don't end up finding it, and you just have to take the hit. And they know, like, if you're over constantly, then there's probably something going on. But if you're over or short or something like that, just maybe like every other month or so, then they know you're trying your hardest, and you're doing your best. So they're very lenient. It's not like a one time and then you're kicked out or something. So
yeah. What any other things that you see in the work environment?
That's the only thing that I can see from my perspective. I didn't I wasn't part of any.
Go ahead. You wasn't part of what?
I wasn't part of any like super confidential like
Big time,
customer. Yeah, because I could see like a customer's like their sheet, like what their accounts and like how much they had in that, and some transactions that they did in the last month. But I wasn't like deep into what they had. So just to make sure that you don't snoop, because sometimes you find yourself with some time on your hands. So you guys just got to make sure you keep your hands and head clean.
confident. Snoop
Mhm.
like confidential information. You mean?
Yeah, because if you have someone's name, you can just type it in and then see all their accounts and stuff like that. So you got to make sure that you don't be snooping and looking into all that stuff. So it's just basic confidentiality stuff.
Yeah. Did you see anyone get in trouble? I assume probably not, but I was going to ask a question. Did you see anyone get in trouble for falsifying any information or falsifying reports or anything like that in your time there?
I did not see anything like that. I do. They had this thing called Bank Buzz that would come out every month, and sometimes in those monthly issues, they would have stories of a teller from another branch or something like that was able to stop like a fraud situation, and they would just recognize them like that. So I never noticed anything specifically in person, but I do know some stuff has happened at other banks that are able to be stopped, which is a good thing.
Oh, so they recognize patterns or something going on and kind of put a bug in someone's ear to check it out or whatever. Or
yeah, and it wasn't anything with tellers that were caught. It was tellers who helped.
Yeah, catching other people.
Yeah,
I got you. So you haven't ever heard of the tellers getting caught either?
I haven't heard any of that. It wouldn't surprise me if it has happened, but I personally don't have any experience seeing.
They probably try to build a number of safeguards in too, like you said. If you're short, you got to count your money with someone else or something, or
yeah,
kind of like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, each time we would close out, we would sign or initial the closing ticket, and then someone else would initial the closing ticket, making sure that we're writing down the correct amount and stuff like that. So.
What do you, as we talk about, especially that main temptation you're talking about of kind of, potentially falsifying records and other temptations that may be in the workplace, why do you stay away from these things, or how are you able to stay away from those things?
Well, I have to tell you, having the cameras pointed at your back, like 4 cameras, I mean, obviously you're dealing with a lot of finances and stuff like that, and people are very protective of that. So having that, just people are watching you, it makes you be aware that like you gotta stay straight and all that stuff. But also just the feeling of like, if you're doing something and you feel that it's not right, then you're like, yeah, I need to stop this. So it's basically just your own morals, and then also the rules and regulations that are put on you as well help you to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, the big word there, accountability, which some people don't like that word, but like you said, as you're dealing with thousands and tens of thousands of dollars or more potentially, the bank wants to hold you accountable, and I'm sure the people above you, they hold them accountable in some way or measure as well. And have you taken any business ethics classes? That's hard to say, business ethics.
I'm actually taking that class right now. We have one more week, so
okay.
Ready for that week to be over. But.
You're ready for that week to be over. So, what are some things have you seen any? They had any case studies of like people that have gotten in trouble, or kind of what are some things you glean from that? That kind of crosses our Christian walk with ethics and the workplace. What have you kind of gleaned from that class?
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, ethics is a really hard thing to discuss and to, I guess just to discuss in general, because there's some people that say that ethics can't be taught; they have to be learned through experience. And I feel like in some generalizations that is true. It's kind of like you won't know what to do until you're in the moment sort of thing. And just, I guess the best way you can do it is just tell you what ethics are, and then you need to understand what business you're working for, what their ethics are, and what their standards are, and then see if that matches with what your understanding of ethics is. And if it's not, then you either need to change it or find something else.
Yeah, I think both are important. I know that's why as you go into a company, whatever the company does, they have a lot of introductory. Some of it's online, where you do these online modules or things like that. I guess part of that too is so they can say, "Hey, we told you that we didn't want you to do A, B, or C, and then you did it." Either illegal activity or immoral, unethical activity. They can say, "Hey, we told you not to do that." When in the videos or whatever the case may be. But and I think some of that, like you said, can be heard, and some of it, like you said, you have to experience. You can talk about handling, lots of money as a teller, but until you get that money in your hand and go, okay, now, someone that may pocket $100 or whatever the case may be, then you have that temptation potentially, if you're tempted to do that, of saying, okay, am I going to stay honest and keep my job and do the honest thing, or am I going to try to pocket $100 and try to pass it off as, just a mistake rather than stealing the money? It's definitely, when the rubber meets the road, it can be a definite more challenge instead of learning about it in the classroom as you're doing now. But yeah, it's important to be taught those things and learn those things intellectually. But the challenge is, like you said, whenever the rubber meets the road, and because there's plenty of examples of people that have done pyramid schemes and lied to people to get their money and all kinds of things like that, that are unethical and immoral, even though people choose to go that direction. Kind of last question to kind of wrap up, and you can wrap up anything else you want as well. How does doing your best at your job make you feel? And how does that make you feel towards your boss and coworkers, kind of in general? I know you've kind of worked a summer there, so you're young in your work experience, but how does that make you feel doing your best at your job?
So being given that opportunity to work in that organization, I feel like I was very blessed with the opportunity that I was given. I feel like it was a very, very high up position, and I was very grateful to be given that. So just to kind of like give back to them for taking me on, I wanted to do my best and show that I was serious, and I was a hard worker for them. And so being willing to come in on a weekend and work a half day on Saturday, I was just like, yeah, I'll be up for it. I got nothing else to do. I'm here to work. So just being able to do that. And also, we just didn't do transactions for our customers. We also would call credit cards and do stuff for that. We would also roll coin in the back or scan work if we needed to. So just being able to learn everything that a teller does in a normal everyday activity, and being able to do it effectively, and while also balancing the 10 other roles that we need to do. Just wanted to give back to the organization because they've been so gracious to me.
And plus, in the future, like you said, as you called them back this summer, they would have taken you back in if they had space. But as you get towards graduation and begin to interview at potentially a bank or a business or whatever, that good reference will come in handy of saying, hey, he worked hard all summer, for a summer, and learned new things well and all those type things, rather than being a slacker or doing the minimum or whatever, case may be. That good word is helpful for recommendations in the future as well, with being a hard worker and being willing to work as a teammate, a good teammate as well.
Definitely.
Any other closing comments kind of what we've been talking about, or faith at work?
I think that's all I have for the moment.
Okay. Well, I know you're far away, but we look forward to hearing good things about you and seeing good things about you, and look forward to being able to see you again whenever that may be. School's starting back here at the end of summer. I know you'll be busy with that. Do y'all both have one more year? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one more year to go.
I was thinking it was a year. I couldn't remember exactly. So you are on schedule to graduate after next spring?
If nothing else pops up like this, then we're hoping to.
If no roadblocks come up.
Exactly.
or weird viruses or.
Yeah.
All right, let's close out with a prayer. Father, we're thankful for the time that I had to visit with Noah and to learn about his young work experience as he's younger. We're thankful for his perspective and being able to share that with us as we continue to go through this series. Pray that we would all seek to do as we go and do our work, wherever that may be, in whatever environment we find ourselves. Pray that we would allow our faith to penetrate that, and pray that we would be seek to walk in Christ and seek to be a light wherever we go and whatever we do, whatever the challenge may be and difficulty of the situation. Pray that we would always seek to walk faithfully in you. We're thankful for Noah's example as he shared. He's gone off and began work and finishing up school here in the next year. Pray that you'd bless him in his endeavors, and as he's got married and began that avenue of life as well. Pray that you bless all those things as time goes forward, and we know that you will. And pray that we could all seek to walk in you and be a good example in our workplace and be a light shining for you wherever we go and whatever we do. Just thank for the blessings you give us when we know that as we work hard and as we're faithful, we know that you bless us, and pray that we would seek to be a blessing to you and a blessing to others as well as we go. Just pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Noah, thanks for your time, buddy.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.